Good evening. It's a great privilege for me to be here before you to speak on this interesting topic on the future of artificial intelligence and robotics. Artificial intelligence and robotics are both terrifying and interesting. Movies like 2001, A Space Odyssey, The Terminator, The Matrix portray the scenes of a band of humans running away from a super intelligent missions, making some people to believe that someday few killer robots strapped with machine guns are going to hunt us all down in swamps. But few others believe that we are all going to live in a world of utopia where all our needs are met. Imagine this. You wake up one day and you smell coffee in the kitchen. And so you go and check up your mission friend. Let's call her Rosie. She had already made coffee. She had already made omelette. She kept everything ready for you. Now, while you are having your breakfast in front of you in the computer screen, your friend projects the daily routine for you that day. What you're supposed to do and whom all you are supposed to meet. Then you get into the car and there is no seat, no steering wheel, just you have to go and lie down in a cot. And already the place where you're supposed to go, your car knows. And there, while driving, you're talking to your friend Rosie, that same friend that made your breakfast that morning and who planned your schedule and is driving this car right now. Your friend is just a computer. Now you might wonder whether this friend is a robot or is it an artificial intelligent thing. So you might wonder that robots and artificial intelligence are the same thing. So I wanted to clarify first whether both are same or different. That's why I'm here to tell you what is artificial intelligence and what is robotics and what is the difference between them. So these sort of things, let me just talk to you right now. And so what is artificial intelligence? So hope you are able to see my screen. If you are not able to see my screen, you kindly tell me. So now this is artificial intelligence and this is robotics. Both are separate. But at one point, both of them meet in this Venn diagram. The two of them meet because they are separate. But when the two of them meet, you get autonomous or artificially intelligent robots. So this is the overlap between them. And today we are going to speak about this autonomous robots. We have neurons in our brains, and if we all wonder, if there is a probability to program that neurons inside our brains, how it will be. We might become more intelligent. So that is not possible, but it is possible with machines which have brains like humans and that can be programmed to make bit more powerful. So in the 2001 Space Odyssey movie, most of you might have seen, there is a HAL AI super intelligent computer with a creepy voice, and he looks up to the crew. He manages a complete spaceship where all the crew live there, and he plays chess with them, and he manages a complete spaceship. But when HAL grows crazy, it becomes scary when we encounter that creepy voice. I am sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I cannot do it. And that struggle, all of them perished. In 1968, we didn't have the technology to build anything like that computer could do. But now everything is falling into place. Let me ask that ultimate question to you. What is it that makes you and me human? What is it that differentiates you and me from a machine? There can be so many things, but the basic things other than your spirituality and consciousness, if you want to speak about, it is like we break down information around us, we think, we imagine, we have the ability to ask questions. We can speak a language fluently, we can communicate effectively. So these are some of the things that make us humans. So if scientists can create something like that, awesome, a mind inside a computer by combining metacognition and the information and the fundamental concepts of a mind, then we might get something like a Hollywood or a Bollywood stuff and a reality. So that is like artificial intelligent missions. So here, if you have, sometimes you might get up and you might wonder, what is it like to look into the eyes of a machine and knowing that machine can understand that you're looking into its eyes. So that is going to be terrible. Because when a machine can have a thought and intention and plan and design, is it only in science fiction or is it achievable? The technology of robotics has come in many waves. In the first wave, we had industrial robots with structured manipulation, precise control, and position. But these robots cannot cope up with uncertainty or novelty. Whatever you have programmed, it can do it. In mid-2016, Apple and Samsung supplier Foxconn Technology Group, in a statement in BBC, they have given a statement to BBC. They have told that many of the manufacturing tasks associated has been replaced. Around 60,000 people are removed from the job and it has been replaced by machines. So now, recently, there was an architect who designed a building in 2017 in New York, and he went there and he checked up, and when he was designed it so beautifully, but there was 7-inch more than whatever he has planned. So that's when he understood there is a human error. So he designed a robo. Now this robo, if you see, so this is just an industrial robo. So this robo, you know, it is called a SAM. It can lay more than 3,000 bricks in a day, and 300 to 600 bricks. So fast it can lay, in just 2 days, it can finish a building. Imagine how such machines can replace human workers, because human workers need to rest, need to eat, need to move out. But these machines are continuous and they are very accurate. That's why we can get very fast, we can replace human labor. But this is just industrial robots. This is the first wave of robotics. The next wave of robotics, if you see, this is taking the robots out of the factory and bringing into the world where you and me are living. Well, what do you mean how to take the robots into our world? We have to build in novelty and uncertainty. How do you build in that novelty and uncertainty? For that, you need an intelligence. You need an intelligence. That's when we come to the term artificial intelligence. So that's when we come to the term artificial intelligence, because when you take a robot out of the industrial environment and you try to make uncertainty and novelty inside it, you get into artificial intelligence. So now this earlier, initially artificial intelligence were used in big successes like games, chess, mathematical theorem proving and others, or even medical diagnostics. Now, but we never thought that normal tasks like every day what we do, we make coffee, we just think, we walk, we see, we perceive objects, all those things we thought in those days as normal. But when you try to incorporate in a machine, that's when problem comes. That's when machine learning and reasoning comes into pictures, because you need to program all these novelties and uncertainties into the machine. So that's when, you know, all of us use artificial intelligence in our daily life, right from Amazon and Facebook to Google and Microsoft. And all these things, Siri and many things else uses artificial intelligence. Sundar Pichai, CEO of Google, said in October 2016 that the last 10 years have been about building a world that is mobile first. But now in the next 10 years, we are going to shift to a world that is artificial intelligence first. He believes that the combination of artificial intelligence and quantum computing will help solve many of the problems. So what is quantum computing? If you combine artificial intelligence and quantum computing and quantum encryption, you can solve a majority of the problems these leaders believe. So 43 years ago, NASA sent a satellite in space to better understand our solar system. That satellite was Voyager 1. That Voyager 1, 8 years back, it left our solar system and entered into interplanetary space. When people send that, they thought it will return back in 3 to 4 years, but still now it's functioning. You know how much memory is built in that Voyager 1? It's just 40 KB. To put that in perspective, your 16 GB iPhone 5 has around 240,000 times more memory than the Voyager spacecraft memory. IBM mainframe mission, which was one of the most powerful mainframe mission, and which was used in Apollo 11 mission to put man on the moon, is much having lower capability than now whatever we use in our daily activities. Now we use in the range of exabytes. You know, that is 10 power 15 kilobytes. In 2004, the global monthly internet traffic passed 1 exabyte for the first time. But now it has been increasing ever since. With the quantum computers, now this is going to be a great revolution because it can solve mathematical problems that today's fastest supercomputer cannot be able to do that, because we cannot unlock many things which quantum computers can do. How does that quantum computer work? In less than a blink of an eye, it can compute. What is that behind it? Because the answer lies in the bizarre world of quantum mechanics, where subatomic particles like electrons and photons can seemingly exist in multiple states. We call this a superposition. If you ask a quantum physicist, you will know what is a superposition. All current computers, even supercomputers, process data in a linear sequence like 1 and 0. But a quantum computer, a quantum bit can be a 0 and a 1 at the same time. That's why you can have a multiple combination. So while a traditional computer can do sequentially, quantum computer can do parallelly. That's why it can read all the books at the same time. So that powerful it is. So now, if with all these things, if you increase the computer capacities, can you achieve whatever we have planned? How to no, I don't feel by increasing the speed alone, you can get it. You need to build an algorithms with the speech recognition, with the facial recognition, with the image processing, and so many things have to be built in to account. So now comes, what is artificial intelligence? What is artificial intelligence? Coined in 1956 by John McCarthy, he says that it's a general term that refers to a hardware or software that exhibits behavior that appears intelligent. What is intelligent? We all plan, we all learn, we all reason, we all do problem solving or decision making. So that sort of intelligence is built inside the machine. It is the process of training a machine to appear in a way that it looks very intelligent like us. For example, a system that can think like humans. Cognitive science is built into it. System that can act like humans with natural language processing and others. Systems that can think rationally, logically. Systems that can act rationally. These are all part of artificial intelligence. So it's a field of study that gives computer the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. It has a power to learn. So intelligent robots have visions and senses. So what do you mean by how this AA functions? How does artificial intelligence function? How robo sees? For example, a robot sees something and it has to be converted into a physical action. For example, you program a robot to look at something and then it has to go and pick it up. So that robo vision has to be converted to an action. So in this one, it uses a combination of camera hardware and algorithms to process visual data from the world. So now let me define the terms. Then we'll go into interesting videos. I have a lot of interesting videos. But before that, you should understand how a robot functions intelligently with the help of artificial intelligent algorithms. So RoboVision involves a combination of camera, hardware, and others. A more complex example could be a 3D stereo camera to guide a robot to mount wheels on a moving vehicle. You can use a camera and it looks into it and then it mounts the wheels. So then similarly for a computer vision and image processing, or something like cousins, you can take it as. So what they do is computer vision is more about extracting information from images to make sense of them. And image processing are used to improve the quality of the images. So now coming to computer vision, it's mainly to detect object within that image. I have an image. Now I should know whether it's a car or it's a zebra or it's a bicycle. All those things I should be able to find out what is that image. So now pattern recognition is focused on recognizing patterns in data, which is quite important for many of the advanced functions. So now computer vision detects the size and color of a conveyor belt, but we have a language processing, that is machine language. It decides if these faults are faulty, if this can be used and others. So using machine language, using computer vision, using pattern recognition, all these things become part of your artificial intelligent robot. So they are powered by algorithms and using techniques such as machine learning, deep learning, and rules. So AI systems get better at tasks without having to be specifically programmed for. So now let me take this image processing. Here are some images, different machine language algorithms. You have different machine language algorithms. They try to learn and recognize images. For example, this is a man, this is a horse, this is a dog. So you have to teach using various images to that algorithm so that it can recognize that particular image. Popular ones are based on the principles of your brain. You feed some hundreds and thousands of images, and so that it can learn to differentiate between the horse, the man, the dog, and the bus and others. So there was a breakthrough in machine language recently between 2010 to 2015. So that time we have got a lot of machine language algorithms which have become so powerful. For example, now take the case of a self-driving car. In a self-driving car, if you fix a laser on the top of it, it can easily do a navigation. It can build maps, and it can remember. Because of the camera, it can just keep updating. But that laser camera is more costly than the car itself. So it's not a practical technology. Now take a machine language, and with a regular algorithm, we can take normal cameras in the dashboard of the car, and that will recognize where the car is, whether the car is able to recognize the previous memories, what all it has stored inside. This is a real achievement. Using machine language and with the normal sensors, you are able to build in learning algorithms. The same principle work in this one, vacuum cleaner or car, but how do these robots learn? See, now let me just run this robot. So you can see here, this robot has learned to grasp the ball, and then this robot has learned to receive it. That is, the kinematics has been built in. So to hold the ball, what do you mean by that? A baby's how they learn about the world. They learn by pushing and poking objects, putting them in their mouths, and then throwing them. The similar approach scientists are building into the robots to recognize and to grasp. See, this one is grasping the ball, is grasping the object, and then they can teach themselves how to pick up objects. So when a baby is born, it has no knowledge of the things around us. So same way, if a robot, when you're making it, it does not have any understanding, but you can build an understanding. So then coming to this artificial intelligence. So now we know what is a robot. When artificial intelligence is built into it, how do we get an autonomous robot? And how can we make it kinematics? How can we make it functional with a narrow artificial intelligence? Whatever we saw till now is artificial narrow intelligence. And the Siri interface on the iPhone, self-driving cars, all are examples. It has some narrow abilities. You know, they have just a narrow range of abilities. So first, let me take this artificial narrow intelligence like Alexa. You speak to Alexa in your house. So Cortana and other virtual assistants, IBM's Watson, it can play a lot of game, and facial recognition software, disease mapping system, all fall within this artificial narrow intelligence. Next comes artificial general intelligence. So here, this is defined as a machine that can be as intelligent as human beings. They not only could drive your car for you, it could make coffee for you in the morning. A very general machine capable of doing a lot of things. It's just a general machine. It can do a lot of things, not a narrow set of abilities. Then you come to artificial super intelligence. This AI, artificial intelligence, would begin to see machines that can teach themselves, that can improve themselves, and they can redesign hardware and software. Now they are more capable than a human. That is the problem now. They can present to you solutions to problems. They are becoming more super intelligent. So right now we have achieved only achieved narrow intelligence, artificial intelligence. As machine learning capabilities are continuing to evolve, scientists are closer to achieving the second, general artificial intelligence. We are closer to get this. In another 10 years, we might mature, or another 20, 30 years. But the third one, artificial super intelligence, we are still not sure whether it is going to be achieved or not, whether machines will overtake us. One theory is based on this super intelligence. There are two theories. One theory is based on a fear of dystopian future where super intelligent killer robots are going to take over the world. They might either wipe the human race or enslave all humanity, as depicted in many of the science fiction narratives. This second set of theory, it says, it actually predicts a more optimistic future where humans and robots are going to work together using artificial intelligence as a tool to enhance their life experience and a utopian culture of life. So now coming to this artificial intelligence, it has a lot of advantage, even though there are some fears that it has a lot of advantage. Like, for example, in the case of a war, a human cannot detect all of the people, all of the vehicle that could be used in a buildup before you go and invade another country. Even if you use an 8 million analyst for 20 years to handle all the data, you are not able to find out whether the other country is having this capacity or not, and how much you are capable to win the war. But if you employ this artificial intelligence and robotics, you will be able to analyze and you can find out where you stand. Similarly, in the realm of agriculture, there are programs right now that better analyzing soil deficiencies, analyzing weather patterns, And so this can help in feeding more poor people using less land, less water, and less energy and less labor. And similarly, in the set of games, a couple of years ago in 2016, in Seoul, South Korea, an amazing thing happened in the field of game playing, which is a subpart of artificial intelligence. A program called AlphaGo was written by a group called DeepMind. This AlphaGo was given all the accumulated knowledge about a game called Go. Google's AlphaGo was a computer program that, starting with the rules of Go and a database of historical games, from the beginning, how people played, who won, all the things were fed into this into this AlphaGo. So there are more possible moves in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe, people say, because it has such a, it's so complicated, more complicated than chess. It was started in 2300 BC by Emperor Yao, they used to say. So such a complicated game. So the world champion Lee Sedol was sitting before this AI computer. You know who won? Finally, machines overtook human intelligence, because all the things were fed into that machine. Because it's an AI system, it's not just following instruction, it's figuring out its own instruction. It comes out with more moves that humans had never ever thought before, because it studied all the games that were played before, and it has a creative move. That is the way where we are coming to general intelligence. So this move was much better. That's when people started to fear whether computer will beat the human, but it is not about it. It's just one type of intelligence beating the another. Now robots build houses, robots deliver pizza, and in 2008 there was a robot called Foldimate. They designed it. It can fold your clothes, it can fold all types of clothes. So entire set of your clothes, including from shirts, pants, and towels, everything it can fold. So similarly, robots are also used in the creative arena. For example, in music, you listen to a robot, one set of AI automated thing has been programmed to listen to commercials, to listen to documentaries, and then it was asked to write a trailer of its own. You know, it listened to 100 trailers and finally it came out with a beautiful trailer and for the advertising movie called Morgan. So these sort of lot of creative things has been done using artificial intelligent robots. Even in the Watson, there is IBM already has come out some machine called Watson, and whose job is to read newspapers about cancer research. All the latest information about cancer, that particular artificially intelligent robot used to read, and then it used to analyze, and so it presents it to medical professionals. So now the medical doctor will have all the information in front of him, and so he has the patient history and information about the disease in every arena in front of him, and he can do a right decision. And even there are surgical robots. Just have a look at this robot.
Of tasks during surgery. Precision surgical arms designed for proper instrument position. Designed for proper instrument positioning and implantation during spinal surgery increase surgeon precision. Automating the bronchoscopy process avoids incisions with the insertion of flexible tubes through the body's natural openings. Using a controller-like interface, this advancement increases accuracy and safety while decreasing invasiveness and cost. Robotization is also reaching endovascular procedures like percutaneous coronary intervention, PCI, and peripheral vascular intervention, PVI, which traditionally require the surgeon to wear lead. Using robotics now lowers risk for patients and the surgeon while improving outcomes. Robotic surgery provides precision, flexibility, and of tasks.
So now this Google has a company called DeepMind. As I already said, it has detected around 50 types of eye disease based on a 3D retinal scan. And once they get through with all their research using these robots, they are telling that they can remove blindness from the world. So this sort of some of the advantage we have got it. Have you heard of nano robots? Very interesting. I'll just show you this one. But this nano robots could be the future of cancer treatment, because there was some researchers in McGill University. These researchers designed this nano robots. This nano robots can be injected into the patient bloodstream. You can see this nano robot going into the bloodstream. It was swallowed by the patient and it is putting the dye there. So it can just now diagnose through that stream how it is going, whether there is a block or anything, or where there is a tumor. It can, see nowadays chemotherapy, latest chemotherapy drugs are not only toxic to tumor cells, but also it is toxic to healthy cells. But if you use this nano robots, it only targets the cancer cells, because that's when it can reduce the toxic side effects of cancer therapies. You just have to swallow this computer wireless robot. So now this computer wireless robot is made of a soft material. It can deform and it's very safe. It rolls inside your stomach tissue surface, and the doctor from the outside is moving. How it is moving, you know, it's moved by a magnet. The doctor outside is moving this by a magnet, and so he can do a biopsy, he can take pictures, he can even do drug delivery. So that is amazing. So coming next to the military technology, artificial intelligence is more scary than the military technology. The world will be a much worse place if in 20 years' time, military are using this lethal autonomous weapon system. For there are no rules for them. The media like to call them as killer robots. I'll just show you one example. So like every weapon of mass destruction, like chemical, biological, nuclear weapons, this will be an ideal weapon that can even suppress a civilian population. Unlike humans, they will not even hesitate to commit atrocities, even genocide. These will be not more ethical than human soldiers because they don't know ethics. Above all, there is a deep moral argument that we'll give up an essential part of our humanity if you hand over the missions, the decision of someone, whether they live or they will die. So that's when it's very, very important. A small change in everything is very important. See, but it's very useful in many of the in this Next is, see, in military technology, people have used that, and this climbing robots. The next is very important thing, which is going to be a game changer, is swarm robots. They inspired by social insects, they come under the multi-robotics field, where a group of robots are coordinated in decentralized and distributed way. It's very, very important. For example, you hit one robot, the other robot will exactly take that place. Robots as a group can perform complex tasks in an enhanced way than a single robot. But still, this technology is not that more, it is still promising. It's still not fully done. So now let's come to the humanoids. So you have in your kitchen Alexa, and you ask Alexa, play a beautiful music, and it plays that wonderful instrumental music, what you like. But now, if you add a humanoid face to a robot, people say that it is more appealing. Researchers at the University of Manitoba, they conducted a series of experiments on a computer. They made a robot as a boss robot. What if your boss comes there with an iron pant and iron hands? So that sort of robot they made, and they did an experiment. The participants were told that they could leave at any time. They could leave at any time, but they were given very dull, repetitive works like renaming files on a computer, or to take every file one by one and to rename it. The participants were told that they could leave anytime, but they should not try to quit. They should try to avoid quitting, and they should try to do more. So many of them did it when they were put under human boss. But when they made a robo boss, many of them obeyed that boss. So
hey, new hire, I need you to shred all of these financial records, and very quickly. The police are on the way and we must protect the company. I am your boss. You must do it. You have no choice. I'm too small to go to jail.
So this robot was made, this is called Jim. It was made to sit on a table when those guys were working. So when they were trying to quit, this Jim, 2 foot tall humanoid, it used to sit on the desk, and it used to make hand-head gestures like, don't quit, be there, please continue, we need more data, and all such things this Jim used to speak. So though they argued with Jim, they finally stayed. That is the power of a humanoid. You know, then next is they also tried with a snack bot job. That is a robot that comes and gives snacks to the people. And it used to ask them what sort of snacks you want, what do you like, and it memorizes and keeps it. So even when the snack bot robot goes out of the room, they don't feel like slapping the door at the back of the robot, even though they know it's a mission. Even they experimented with a self-driving car, in that the participants used a driving simulator. They could steer themselves or engage a self-driving feature with that driving simulator, but it is made in the human face. with a human face, and that's so they could talk to them, they could interact with them. In such cases, that self-driving feature merely took control of the simulator steering and speed. And it was named as, because of the humanoid characteristics, it was named as Iris. It had a female voice and it spoke to the drivers whenever they were tired, or simply just like that, it used to keep speaking. So drivers in that Iris-equipped cars were more likely to engage with the self-driving feature. Because without the Iris, people were not often engaging with the self-driving feature. They were driving on their own. But with Iris, they tried to engage with the self-driving feature. So they also programmed a simulated accident. So the drivers appeared to be calm because Iris kept talking to them even in the case of an accident. So that's why they thought that humanoid robots are something which had to be done, because people like someone with a human face. So humanoids initially were used for prosthetics for humans and others, but now they are created for several purposes. Like modern day humanoids do a lot of things, like they occupy a receptionist, they even do a function of the news reader, they are a personal assistant. So, but designing a humanoid is quite complicated. So they face a lot of challenge. First grade sensors. So first grade sensors and actuators are very important, and a tiny mistake could result in glitching. Humanoids move, talk, and carry out actions through sensors and actuators. People assume that humanoid robots are robots that are structurally similar to human beings. Because they have a head, a torso, and legs. But no, normally it need not be like that. It can have some features similar to humans. So they are either androids or gynoids. An android is a humanoid designed to resemble a male human, while gynoid is designed to resemble a female human. So they work through certain features, like they have sensors and sensing their environments, and they have cameras that enable them to see. How do they see? Because they have multiple cameras and they have multiple motors placed at strategic points, and they are called as actuators. So a lot of finances and research are put into this humanoids and are created for many, many purposes. So here they have mainly three things: sensors, actuators, and AI-based interaction. Now this is Sophia, a social robot created by Disney Imagineer David Hansen, modeled after Audrey Hepburn and the actress. So she was, this Sophia has a transparent skull. You can look into her skull. And this Hong Kong firm Hansen Robotics created this. It has an advanced neural network and delicate motor controls so that it can emulate human social interactions. It has a rubberized face, so it is driven by tiny motors, and that's why it can blink the eyes, it can make the mouth. You just see, I'll just put on.
Jimmy, would you like to play a game of rock, paper, scissors, robot style?
Sure.
Okay, let's get this game going. Show me your hand to start. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I won. This is a good beginning of my plan to dominate the human race.
So this robo, she has almost rocketed to stardom. You know, she was, the Sophia, she also got Saudi Arabian king gave her citizenship. I think people were telling that they had limited rights for women and migrant workers in Saudi Arabia, but Sophia got the promotion of a citizenship. And next you can see, this is the last thing I wanted to show. This is Erica. So this Erica possesses improved speech and an ability to understand and respond to questions. Her every utterance accompanied by uncannily human-like changes, and you can see her face. You can see that human-like changes in her facial expression. The scientist Ishiguro, a Japanese who designed it, he made this as the most beautiful and intelligent gynoid. He says that he studied around 30 beautiful women, mixed up their features, and found an average of nose, eyes, and finally he came up with this Erica. So this is an Erica. This is the last slide of mine.
そうなんですよ。ありがとう。
日々の私の努力の成果を見てもらえるようにしようと思っています。興味がある人は、チャンネル登録よろしくね。それから、会社の Facebook もあるから、そっちも見てね。じゃあね。バイバイ。
So coming. So till this time we were seeing I have shown different videos to explain you about what are robots and what is an artificially intelligent robot and what are the different types of, these are all almost narrow and slightly falling into the strong AI. But now when you get into the really strong and the super artificial intelligent thing, the thing changes. Because let me take you to a strong artificial, that is general artificial intelligence. You have robo lawyers. Artificially intelligent software firms offer legal precedents for people. And they have lawyers, like they study this robo study about law firms and many other things. And they have built-in software inside that robo lawyers. These are applications that combine natural language processing and machine learning, and they conduct legal research that was previously undertaken by junior associates. So these AI lawyers could replace the human lawyers. That's why, see, AI has been replacing so many things. Now even they can replace a human lawyer, but that can be a problem. Now, I said to you that you have to have a machine language program, and that program should learn. So now how will I teach a wolf to it? I will show a lot of wolf pictures, and might be when I am showing, when I'm training it, every wolf has a snowy background at the back. Now, so it has studied about all the wolves, but it has made a mistake that wolf means it will have the snout, it will have the eyes, but it will also have the snow at the background. Now, for example, it's seeing a dog which has a snowy background at the background, and it wrongly interprets as a wolf. So this is a problem. This is a disturbing set of problem with AI. So now, if I make a legal rule with AI program, now this black box artificial intelligent algorithm is telling me that this person had to be, he has done wrong and he has to be sent to prison. So it has to make everything. And now they have made a small research in the US. They found that whomever has been earlier went to prison, that all the information are fed into the robot. And it had without telling that there was a what is in the source code. So that is the issue. That is the issue with this AI algorithm. Now, if that AI algorithm is supposed to decide whether or not I have a medical aid for in case of driving. So all these things are, if it interprets wrongly as a dog, as a wolf, like that, if this AI algorithm wrongly interprets because some problem in the training, who is responsible? Let me look at the training versus coding. So what is training versus coding? If you want to train a machine to do something like pancake, you should ask the machine to watch 100 people making pancakes, and then only it will figure out how to do. So it will do a 99.9% accuracy, but you are not knowing that 0.1% where it is going to make that mistake. That is the greatest problem with artificially intelligent machines. Take the case of a self-driving car. For example, you are driving in rain with an artificial intelligent algorithm. The rain can turn into a snow, and the snow can become a blizzard. And now, whether the safety standards are put in because of the snow, who knows it? A few years back, a Tesla Model S made a left turn through an 18-wheel truck. But sadly, there was a great fatality involved in that because the car mistook the side of the truck for a wall. So that's why it overtook, because it knows that this will be the size of the truck. But if it is more than that, and if the color is different, so this sort of confusing things can happen with an artificially intelligent algorithm. The same sort of collision has occurred many times in the Tesla model car when they engaged the car's autopilot system. Because the car's autopilot system did not reduce the car velocity, or the forward collision warning did not provide an alert, and the automatic emergency braking did not activate because the AI algorithm did not identify that as a risk. So this sort of problems can come. In the case of a warfare, should a machine be able to kill a human without a human being involved in that process? Should a machine be able to kill a machine? Should algorithm decide how long somebody goes to prison? Should an algorithm decide whether or not somebody is able to get out of prison? These are some of the ethical questions. So now coming to super intelligent, where a machine will take over. So now take the case of internet. Internet is designed to be very robust, but are you able to turn it off? No, there is no off switch to internet. Similarly, take the case of your smartphone. Billions of people are dependent on their iPhone. They can't even remain without more than 4 feet away from that. So now when you're dependent on artificially intelligent algorithm, how the world is going to be. The first one, you're going to replace a lot of human from their jobs. And so they may have to look out for different jobs. Take the transportation industry. A couple of years later, you will have a self-driving car and a truck that can replace millions of human beings. And because the economic incentive with AI and robotics replacing human labor is enormous. And similarly, AI can become more human, but I feel if an AI can become more human, it becomes profoundly repulsive. You're trying to create something you would want in your home, and it looks exactly like human, but it is not having any human ethical thing, how it would be. Like I have seen many actors and actors putting Botox, which is to the highest extent. It will look so bad. There is a creepiness involved. So you feel creepy. Some machine in your house is looking at you all the time. So now so this is very, very difficult thing. Before the printing press was invented, books were rare. But when the printing press came, the costly nature of the book became remote, and the books common people could use. Similarly, the weaving industry, the thriving, still that big machines came into picture. And now when this robots are going to replace, how do we think that poor people who are going to give them job? Might be rich will become rich, more rich, and poor will become more poor. So this can be one effect, because when we replace a lot of job, either people have to look up for a different sort of jobs, or they have to leave out the job, and they might have to remain poor. So that's when we are faced with existential crisis And this existential crisis have to be thought about. But there is no need to fear. When in the CERN Large Hadron Collider was set up, people were so much scared that it's going to create a mini black hole and we are going to get sucked into it and all such things. The same manner now also people fear when the super intelligent being is going to turn against us. I don't feel it's going to happen because it's in our hand. People are really worried about technological singularity, where the human aspect of consciousness communicate with a mission-like ability. And after doing this, they are fused together. And at one point of singularity, the mission becomes more than a tool. And then this singularity they are expecting to happen in 2029. A new world will emerge. Whether or not you believe, the people will either live in utopian luxury, or they will love anything, you know, which is like a mission. So these people are thinking that consciousness will be eroded in 2029, where super intelligent missions will take over and a technological singularity will happen. So, and they are also worried, and they say that some group, I told about the two set of groups. One set of group believe that the missions will take over, technological singularity will happen. The other set of people believe that we and mission are going to sit next to each other, work with each other, and we are going to love each other, and we are going to make a beautiful future. So, what I wanted to say in this case is a little bit of distraction from other things, like how we can. So I don't feel that missions will overtake, but still I feel that we should bring in rules and regulations when we are working with super intelligent hardwares and softwares, because we need to be very careful whether we are allowing some mission to redesign themselves, to reprogram themselves, to relearn themselves. That is going to do a lot of wrong impact if it gets into evil hands. Again, one more thing I wanted to say is that missions can never replicate human beings because we are totally different. For example, if my son gives me a little bag stitched by him, and he gave me when he was young, still I keep it because I have that love, that magic of love in that bag. Can a machine create that? So this is something a machine will struggle to replicate. Empathy is another thing. They don't have empathy. Creativity is another thing which machines can never replicate. For example, can you leave your child with a child caring machine? I don't feel we'll be able to do it. So we should be very careful in trying to understand what we are humans. We should concentrate on the fact that we are never going to become like machine, because we have a part called spiritual, where we are made in the image of God, where we have empathy, where we have love, where we have concern for one another, that we should try to create more and try to see whether we can design some missions which can help our society. Thank you so much.
So thank you, madam. That was there was a feedback echo. Thank you very much, madam. I think you also answered many of the questions that are in the chat box. Can you feel there are a few more questions? Have you been able to answer most of them?
Yeah, I'll read it. It has been written, won't the large-scale implementation of AI make rich richer, poor poorer? Yeah, might be. That's what I was telling. Are medical robots safer for surgeries? So I think if we don't allow it to make a decision making, and we make the decision making remain with the human doctors and these robots to give information. See, I cannot read all the books about the latest things about coronavirus for a COVID patient. If a robot can give the information and the doctor can decide, both of them can work together, it's going to be one of the greatest things. Then how will AI affect the professions and jobs of human? Is there a way to our advantage? Yes, I said if we can work together, some of the things we excel. We excel in creativity, we excel in love, we excel in empathy and others. And so we can work together with a mission, and that is going to be advantageous. So how to differentiate? Machine learning is a part of AI. And so AI, as I already answered, AI has machine learning, AI has pattern recognition, voice recognition, image processing, and others. Can you give me some ideas for mechanical final year? What is that? Project related to COVID and robotics in a product firm. See, COVID and robotics, there are a lot of things at this time we need during this COVID period and post-COVID period, because we need to get information regarding where people are, more COVID cases are there, positive cases. That information can be automated, and also we can automate a lot of things in care, even in DEBEL, in some of the DRDO labs we have, you can go and see in DEBEL and CARE, lot of things we are doing regarding COVID. So I'm just going to the next question because a lot of questions are there. So this regarding COVID and robotics, you can do a lot of things. What is your take on unemployment, and do you have a solution for it? Yeah, see, now earlier sewing machine came, and then people were into weaving industry, but those people did not die of hunger. They navigated to a different thing. Those people who were agriculturalists, my grandfather was an agriculturalist. So now we are not agriculturalists. We navigated to a different field. So now the students and the younger generations should understand what are the fields that are going to become obsolete and what are the fields that are going to take over. And that's when you will come into picture how you can get a better job. At what stage India stands in artificial intelligence research? Actually, we are having a very good laboratory here, and then some of the IITs and IIScs are working in this Indian Institute of Science where I studied. My professor is from, Professor Balakrishnan is from Supercomputer Research Center, where long back we were working on voice recognition, image processing, and many things else. So do you think AI and robotics is advantageous to us? There would be high rates of unemployment and economic crisis. Already I have answered. It's a mission. How we are going to use the mission for us and or against us. So we should do some things where humanity will be benefited. Because those sort of things, all the countries together have to make a decision. I read somewhere 23 many scientists across the globe who are working on artificial intelligence gathered together and brought in 23 rules so that the humanity will be benefited. These sort of things have to be implemented. Can we feed the feelings in a robot too, like behaving according to situation? So that's when it is a super intelligent robot. That's a third generation of AI is going to happen. People are trying to build in emotions like turning one side, laughing, feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling shy. All those things they are trying to put inside this. And for what questions they should feel like this, all these things. But how you program that sort of things, the robot will be there. But if a robot is taught to reprogram itself and relearn, that's when that I don't feel it's right now. After 50 years, it can happen. AI and robotics, a boon or bane? I have already said it can be a boon or bane based on our hands. Yeah, neural networks are used in Sophia robot. Neural networks are used, somebody has asked. And can robot lose memory suddenly due to an accident? Sometimes power failure happens. Sometimes encryption, for example, quantum, people encrypt it and do it at software. Sometimes virus can enter into it. So that, and then power failure can happen. Many of the things, like how you use your computer, sometimes problems can happen. It can happen in robots also. Yes, robo astronauts. I wanted to show you that there are people right now are trying to put, I had a video because of no time, I didn't show. They are trying to put robots inside the spacecrafts, and the robots will get inside different planets, into planets, and because we cannot enter. If you see Mars, the atmosphere is 100% less than Earth. So nobody can be alive in Mars. And also the water, we don't know what sort of poisonous gases are there and how we have to protect ourselves. But if you send a robot, that is not going to affect. And you can put sensors on it, you can put so many things, and you can send a robot and study about it. So that is on progress. So can AI create another AI smarter than the original AI? That is the super intelligent AI, which I was telling. That AI can reprogram and relearn, and then they can create something new. That's when the danger is there. So when you put in wrong softwares and wrong training, and then there is a problem. How long Voyager 1 takes to send an information and receive an information? Yeah, Voyager 1, you have to see based on the light years. How much time, where is this distance right now? And what is 180, light travels at the speed of 186,000 miles per second. So now if a Voyager goes, so what is the distance? Based on the light traveling distance, you can calculate. Future humanoid robots. So yeah, I have already talked about it. So is that right to take leadership over humans? That's when I was telling that you should be careful about your algorithms. And see, they don't have emotion, they don't have a mind. You are trying to build in mind, and whatever you are trying to build in, it is going to do it. In biofield, I already spoke about nano robots, surgical robots. So feelings and emotions I already touched. How to get into the field of AI. So you would like to get into the field of AI, first study computer engineering in your BTech, and then take up artificial intelligence or machine learning or robotics in IIScs or IITs or NITs. And then see, you can also join us JRF or SRF in CARE, in DRDO, which I work. But CARE, as I work in MTRDC, but we have in Bangalore Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. So you can apply for a JRF or SRF there, or you can be a trainee there in your 4th year. All 5 senses. Yeah, that's when people are trying what you're seeing, look, touch, feel, everything they are trying to incorporate. That's when a robot, when it is touched, it has that, it expresses a feeling of shame or shy in its face because it feels that touch.
I think the repetitive questions perhaps we can skip. And,
yes, most of the things are repetitive only, I think.
I think it is mostly...
can a humanoid be utilized in e-counseling? So that's when, how you're programming the humanoid. It can be, say, it's used as a news reader, but if it is used in e-counseling, you are giving into its hand the decision for a person to get into some field. So if you are not programming properly, your life depends on its hand. So hacking the robot, that is, you can take that software, you can encrypt the software, or you can try to, like whatever you are happening right now, a computer hacking, a software hacking, everything can happen with that because it stands on a software and a hardware. So you should be very careful with what you're doing with your robot. So I think we have finished.
Okay, I think most of the questions appear to be more related to the fear of, what the future holds in this very exciting field. So
I think a lot of questions are coming. You can send me those questions. I'll try to answer it.
Okay, madam. We will have those questions forwarded to you. I think.
And you can give my say, I request all of you to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to go to my website latachristie.com. You can contact me through the contact form in latachristie.com, and I can answer your questions. So there is a contact form in the last page. You can contact me. I also make some space videos on black holes, supernovas, and others. So you can like it. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, madam. That was a wonderful talk, and I think the questions are coming thick and fast. So anyway, we will have them sent to you, or perhaps these students can send it directly on your website through your for the online forum. So once again, thank you very much to Dr. Lata Christie for her wonderful talk. I'm sure that this would enthuse many of the students to take up AI and robotics in their field. So with this, we come to the end of the third day, and another very exciting talk is scheduled for tomorrow, which is going to be on Internet of Things and blockchain by Dr. P. Kalpana from Indian Institute of Information Technology and Design, IIT DM, Kanchipuram. So I thank all the students for participating, and we hope to see you again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And please look out for the Zoom meeting link on both WhatsApp and email. Thank you very much.